Hello and welcome back to Read Becca. This is my weekly catch-up on everything I have read, everything I'm currently reading, everything I'm looking forward to reading in the near future for the week. So I'm feeling a little tired today, a little bit run down, and we'll get back to that for sure. But I apologize for any just generally low energy that I'm having right now. Yeah, so let's get right into the books. Really, I had a great finish this week. I didn't finish as many books, I think, but I'm reading so many things. I've got so much in progress that we'll be okay with that. So first up, I finished, this is gonna, of course, blow out my color here, The Burning God by RF Kuang, and this is the final book of the Poppy War trilogy. This is a series finish, thank goodness, and a big chunky one. I didn't check the page count, but I think it's over 600 pages. So very happy to be hitting those goals. And this one is really interesting because it follows a young girl, Rin, at the beginning of the series. And this is kind of military fantasy based on the Sino-Japanese War and the rape of Nanking. And so it's very graphic military fantasy, but it's not quite historical. It's historically inspired, but it's set in this inspired secondary world. And Rin has this shamanistic magic that she is training at a military academy initially, and as war breaks out, she begins working up the ranks as a soldier, basically. And so we have seen that through this series, and I think what the series has done so very well is show Rin in her different positions in power or not having power and going up to having power, and how her perspective has changed based on her role. And so she's not a very empathetic or likable character throughout, and she is often in these spots where she makes decisions that we wouldn't agree with. She does rash things, and there are some justifications for that. But she at certain points in the previous book had a lot of empathy for the civilians because of, you know, where she was at. And in this book, she's very, very callous about the civilians. She's kind of gained more power and is just so focused on the war and finishing the war that she can no longer really recognize the plights of the civilians. She sees them as a burden, that they, you know, they're griping about their situation basically to her, and she's like, come on, you quit your whining, and, you know, they're starving to death, right? So she has lost all humanity, it seems, by this point. Yeah, so she is so focused on this all-consuming war, and that was really, really interesting to me to see her character growth over the course of this. So one of the things that didn't work for me at the beginning of this, she's quite emotional, and I think there's a justification for that the book makes, but for me it doesn't make a lot of sense. And she should be a lot more cold and calculating, I think, than she is. Like, she's actually breaking down in tears at points, and I listened to this on audio, and the audio narrator did a good job of imparting the emotion, but it was just like, this is way too emotional for Rin. So I didn't really like that, but she does become that cold, calculating character later on. So I think it evens out. The other thing is that it's really interesting as she's gaining power. At this point, she is, you know, talking to a lot of leaders, and they really look down on her for being a girl in power. And so we see a lot of that where they literally do call her girl. Nobody respects her, and so she's having to overcome that so much. It's really, really fascinating to see, and kind of, I didn't like the emotional aspect because of that, because right where that is the worst, where people are judging her for her gender, she's breaking down in emotion, and later that doesn't happen. That's not a problem for her. So yeah, I didn't really like that balance, but I like the exploration of that kind of sexism that she was experiencing in the military. As well, the other thing that didn't really work for me in this is that the pacing, or not necessarily the pacing, the balance of the kind of topics that it focused on didn't seem quite right. So the whole first third maybe felt like almost all dead weight. Like, it didn't really need to be there, and it felt like not a lot was happening. I think that could have been trimmed way, way, way down. The middle part, she is sort of handling trainees, and bolstering the military. And that part I think was about the right balance, but needed to focus more on the training elements and less on the recruiting, because I felt like that really spent too much time. And then the third part, I felt like it was about right. Like I think that should have been the majority of the book, and that had the most punch in terms of the topic that we're covering in this book. So yeah, I think the book could have been cut down to quite a bit shorter. There was a lot in here that didn't really need to be there. But overall, I really thought it was a great book. I know there has been some, dislike about the ending, but for me, it worked. I think it made sense for the character and for what was happening. So I'm not going to get into spoilers. There are, like I said, tons of reviews. This has been gone over. This is a very popular series. This is just a great series, though, and I think it did some things that I just haven't seen before. So I'm very, very pleased to have read it, and I'm really looking forward to Kuang's next book that's been announced. So yeah, really enjoyed it. Happy to have it finished. Then the other one I've already talked about at length is The Love Study by Chris Ripper. And this is a contemporary romance that I read for November. So if you want to hear a ton more about my thoughts on this, I will link the video from my November check-in last week. And this one is really just about Declan, who left his ex at the altar and has not really gotten back into dating. But when a YouTuber joins their friend group, this YouTuber, Sydney, is starting a series about dating and romance and our needs when we date, basically, called The Love Study. And Declan agrees to go on this YouTube show and start going out on dates and then discussing them after. And so Declan does that, but really he is interested in Sydney. So what I thought this did so well is that it talked about the different needs and unique needs of people in relationships and how they're not one size fits all. And so I loved that aspect, the actual YouTube show, but in terms of the actual relationship between Declan and Sydney, I just didn't really get behind it at any point. So I think this would have been great as just a plain contemporary and not a romance, actually. That was way more where I was interested in. But for me, this was a very, very good book. I really enjoyed it and loved seeing the fact that Sydney is non-binary. Declan is, I think, pan or bi, and does date men, women, and obviously non-binary individuals throughout the course of The Love Study and their relationship with Sydney. So I really just enjoyed this a lot. So in terms of my pile, this is an actual pile. Yeah, I decided to hop in to the Going Postal read along. This is a reread for me, and this was hosted by Rosie Cockshut, Read, Write, Create with Katja, Scott from Gunpowder Fiction and Plot, and Sina from the something bookshelf. I can't remember. Too many to remember off the top of my head. But I will link the live show from yesterday. I just started this week, so I was not fully expecting to get it finished. I was kind of hoping I would, since it's a reread, but yeah, I only made it into a little over 200 pages, so I'm over the halfway mark. But that was enough to be able to discuss it, and I really enjoyed the discussion for that. So I absolutely adore this series, so I will continue on and finish that on my own. This is Sissy next, my nonfiction November pick by Jacob Tobia. I am over halfway. We've got The City We Became by N.K. Jemisin, and this one I'm also a little over halfway. And since I finished The Burning God, I started my other chunky boy. This is The Empire of Gold by S.A. Chakraborty, and this is the final book in the Daevabad trilogy. Yeah, I'm not far. I think I'm 3 chapters in, so barely started that one. And then The Siren Song of the Library. I went to return some things and could not resist. Spindle, Splintered by Alix Harrow. This is a teeny tiny thing. This is like 100 pages and it's really heavily illustrated. So I think this is going to be literally just an afternoon read type situation where I'm going to sit down and blaze through it in one go. But I have loved Alix Harrow's previous books. So I'm really looking forward to this, even though I've heard kind of mixed things. So this one will be an easy read. I will get to that this week. And then I also have a hold on Comfort Me with Apples, which there was a great review of from Kristinell, SFF reader. I will link that for sure. That one I had a pre-order on it from my library, and it has changed from on order to in processing. So I think they have them at the library, so it'll be coming in soon. I'm like number 3 in line for it, so I won't have a huge wait. And that is Catherine Valenti's new story. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that one a ton. So all of this to say, I do think Empire of Gold, I think I'm gonna pick this up on audio as well and do a combo read since it is so chunky. I really want to make progress on this and get done with it this year. So yeah, so that's everything I've got going. I got a romance book I need to pick up that I haven't started yet this week. So that's a lot. As usual, I always have a lot going on reading. So in terms of life stuff though, my life went absolute bonkers this week because of the kittens. So this is going to be a total kitten update. If you're not interested in kittens, skip ahead. So the shelter contacted me because they had trapped a third sibling. And I kind of weighed it and was like, yeah, I can take a third one, even though it was basically like a week behind the other two. And a week is a lot. When they're that young, that can mean the difference between socializable and not, but they should have still been. So I took the kitten. I went and showed up to take the kitten. And I got there, they said, so do you want all 3? I said, I already have 2. I'm just here to pick up the new one. And they said, no, we trapped 2 more. So they trapped 2 brothers. And unfortunately 5 was just too many, and it was really clear when they were trying to get the cats transferred to the carrier that at least one of them was really spicy and needed a lot of work. And so it was like, no, I'm gonna take the third, and I think that's gonna have to be it. And that is the hardest with doing foster or any rescue work. It's always this balance of wanting to do it all and take care of all of the cats and needing to know that to continue doing it, you can't burn yourself out. And I am so relieved that I did not take 2 more because the week has just completely burnt me out. So, which I'm fine at this point. I'm just a little tired. But the third kitten is great. Her name is Phantom, and she turned out to be like very docile, I would say. So she turned around pretty quick, but she was not going for the spoon method at all. She would not eat off of a spoon, off of my hand, off the spatula, nothing. She was not really, like, she was hissy, but she was not like coming at me spitting or bitey like the other 2 were initially. So I wound up kind of going with some more like aggressive, speedy techniques to get her turned around, and that did work. So within about 2 days, I had her to the point where I moved her into the foster room, from the bathroom into the foster room with the other girls, because she was manageable and not like completely freaked out. And like, because if I moved her out of the bathroom to a place where she has places to hide while she's still not social, then she's just going to hide all the time, right? So you don't want that to happen. So I got through that. All of this is, means that I was cleaning constantly, because when you have foster cats, even if they aren't sick, these ones were not, thank goodness, they are coming from like an intake area where there's lots of cats. So I had just gotten through completely top to bottom cleaning the bathroom out from the first 2 kittens when the shelter called to take this new one. So I had gotten through that. I have done so many loads of laundry this past week. So getting through all of that, then having her come in and completely make a mess of the bathroom again, and having to completely top to bottom clean it over again. I have to bleach everything. So yeah, I've done so much laundry, so much cleaning, The kittens, though, are doing really, really well. I'm so happy with their progress, and I'm gonna try to put together a video of kind of their progress. I didn't get any real good footage of them at their worst, or a lot of the failed attempts where we were just trying and failing, and there was a lot of that. But I will try to get something put together so that you guys can see how well they're doing. They're doing great. And so then Thursday, I had somebody coming in to measure for windows because I'm needing to get windows replaced and a new sliding door, and I've had that in the works for a while. And so we've got a contract and everything, and they were coming to do final measurements, and that included going into the kitten room. And so they were in and out of there. It was, you know, fine, no big deal. And I came back afterward, and there were only 2 kittens. And so I was like, okay, you know, anyone who has cats knows that they can just like find hidey holes and disappear. So, you know, that was at the front of my mind, and I'm going, okay, she found some place to go and she is just hiding out. And this was the 3rd kitten who was the most spooked at that point. And so like hours went by and I couldn't find her. It got to the point where I was just, you know, I didn't think she could have gotten out, so I thought she had to be in the room. There is nowhere she could have been in the room. So I was like, she had to have gotten out. There were points where we had the sliding glass door open, and so I was like, I don't think she would have run by us while we were doing measurements on that. There's no way she could have gotten outside. So I went through my entire house. I flipped literally flipped everything over. All of my furniture flipped over. Poor Gumbo, my own cat, who is semi-feral and is really freaked out by any humans around that are strangers. I kept turning her out of hidey holes and stuff, so she was super traumatized for the day. So I was really stressed out, and they started doing leaves outside, like the leaf cleanup outside. So they're out there with blowers and stuff because I have my outside is taken care of for me. And so it was like worst case scenario where I can't find any spots in the house that this kitten could be. And I'm like, there's almost no possibility she could have gotten outside, but if she is, this is the worst case scenario where they're gonna freak her out. And my own cats were getting freaked out because of the blowers and stuff going outside. So I was like so stressed out. So I get ready to do a 3rd round of complete top to bottom searching everywhere. And I got out a can of kitten food and just left it out in the room and went in and started going through everything. And I came back into the room and there she was. So I still have no idea where she could have been. There's absolutely no space in that room. Like the only piece of furniture in that room is a futon. I flipped over my desk chair, which has absolutely nowhere for a cat to go. I flipped over the futon, even though there is nowhere for a cat to go in there. So I have no idea where she was, but she was in some hidey hole in there somewhere. And so yeah, it was hours. I was all hot and sweaty after that, just going up and down stairs, and I was trying to work during all of this as well because it happened during my work day. And so that was probably like, I think 1 to 5 of my day on Thursday. So I was so stressed out. So Friday, I really, really was relying on having a very quiet day, and I did. And the kittens bounced back really well. They were a little stressed out after having a person in, but surprisingly, like, I was the most stressed out after all of that. So otherwise, they are doing really well, as I said, and I'm gonna try and get a video of them up because you will see they're really adorable. So I think that's pretty much it for my week. My week has been completely tied up with doing kitten stuff. And as I said, having somebody in to measure for the windows, and kind of had to go back and forth because I have an association here, so I've had to get approvals for things as things have changed. So all of that, I'm really looking forward to the US holiday this coming week. So that should be good. In terms of my recommendations for the week, I have a couple of things, as I mentioned, that review of Comfort Me with Comfort Me with Apples. I will link down below, so that's kind of a recommendation. Red Panda Reads did a really fantastic board game recommendation, like a gift guide type video, and I enjoyed that so much. There were multiple games I had never heard of in there, so really cool stuff. So I will link that one for sure. I think the Going Postal live stream that I mentioned is the other one that I have. They did announce on there that they are going to be continuing with some Discworld read-alongs, I think each month, or multiple read-alongs coming up, but the next one is going to be Hogfather for December. I'm not sure if I'm going to participate. I've got so much I want to get done, but Hogfather is one that I absolutely love, and I love the adaptation as well. We had some discussion about that in the live stream chat, and I really am looking forward to them continuing on with those, so I will definitely be following along with a lot of the read-alongs that they do. So I think that is it. Thank you all so much for watching and sticking with me along in this video. Let's see, we started a new puzzle. I just pulled the edges out. This is the Peacock Garden. This puzzle is significantly more difficult. This sky part has probably taken me 3 hours, because this is one where things like don't exactly fit together. So some things are just touching, and there's oddly shaped pieces and stuff. So yeah, this one is very challenging. We'll see if I can finish it before it's due back. Ripley, you are a very strange person. What? Have you never been fed? No one has ever fed you? What? You haven't been fed ever, huh? At least not in 6 hours, huh?